So, Felipe, we are halfway through our second Livable Future Investing workshop cohort. And I think it's just an interesting moment for us to pause and reflect on what's been emerging with this phenomenal group of about 40 investors that we're working with. What's standing out for you right now?
A couple things, just the spiritual depth that people are ready to engage with when it comes to our finance work. And I'm surprised that how many people are ready for transformation. It feels like the system is ripe. It feels like people are desiring at such a deep level. I remember one of our family office directors talking about philanthropy needs to be an evolving, life-giving, joyful force. And she
Mm.
was saying that right after some comments about being honest about our history. What's standing out for you?
Well, in the workshop, we've been talking about this livable future investing spectrum. And on one end of the spectrum, we pointed out this idea of capital supremacy, which is sort of the dominant mode for our finance system today. It's this idea that all interests are basically subordinate to the interests of capital. And on the other end of the spectrum is what we're calling kind of livable future investing, which is one that's truly regenerative, that's truly relational in nature, and kind of embodies this Catholic social teaching spirit that we so often refer to as kind of the crux of this workshop. And I think what's been incredible is to acknowledge the ways that we're all journeying along this spectrum and to sort of, yeah, just to see the ways that folks are kind of wanting to lean further in the direction of livable future investing and asking this question of, so if we're really embracing this livable future investing ethic, or what we call capital reciprocity as the antidote to capital supremacy, what does it then mean to be in right relationship with our capital? And what does it mean for our capital to be in right relationship with the broader community and our common home? And so sometimes that means that to be in right relationship, we might need to do some repair work. And so it's been very amazing to hear the stories of people who are thinking about money as also this kind of shared grounds for repair. Um, and what it could look like to structure transactions, to structure investments where you start to sort of privilege the interests of people and the earth and communities more broadly, and make the interests of capital subordinate to those interests. So that's really been striking for me.
I love how you're describing that. And I think what's exciting to me is people are bringing up tangible examples of funds that do exactly that. I was surprised when one of the congregations talked about Black Star Stability Fund that is taking it basically the remnants of redlining, which actually exists. There's more mortgages originating in Detroit from these contract for deed practices, which is these serious, awful situation where Black families are continue to be exploited by our finance system, especially for houses that are less than $100,000. And they have a fund to help refinance those mortgages to actually put more than $25,000 back in each family's pockets and actually lower monthly payments by 30, 40%. And so it just helps you see how extractive our system is. And this fund is giving you an opportunity to help correct some of that ill there. And that's, two Black fund managers. And there's also, people are working with farm workers in California and helping give dignity to work again through employee ownership through small and medium enterprises. So fun to meet Carlo and Rupel from Good Scout Capital that people lifted up, and Zoe, who's imagining much larger transactions at the $100 and $500 million kind of deal size, where we're converting to a steward ownership model. So people are lifting up so many exciting things that help us see this is happening everywhere. There's a lot of proliferation of new things that you don't quite get from your normal financial advisor.
That's so true. And it's been interesting to see, we started out the workshop with this module around kind of reawakening to the structural problems of the global economy and thinking about the ways that Pope Francis invites us to hear the cry of the earth and hear the cry of the poor. What does it mean to truly internalize that in how we live our lives and how we practice finance? And I think sometimes it can feel overwhelming when you really sit with the structural problems of the global economy and recognize the sort of status quo and the path dependencies that we all have and how we practice finance. It can feel very overwhelming. But what's been pretty awe-inspiring for me is the ways that people feel emboldened to start to lighthouse alternatives, to lean into, to break from path dependencies and really do that hard work of like discerning, what are the sort of worldviews I've inherited or the training that I have to unlearn? And what are the new practices and ideas I want to lean into and embody? And then how do I make sure that I'm truly bringing others along with me and bringing my finance committee and the many family members in our family office and others along on this path, on this journey, and seeing the ways that we can be protagonists of transformation, as Pope Francis often calls it. It's a line you and I use a lot, right? And sort of putting the call forth to those we're working with. How can we become protagonists of transformation? So I think I'm feeling very hopeful by the ways that people see themselves as those protagonists. And in spite of the kind of overwhelming evidence to the contrary with our current system, want to be protagonists of a system that is more life-giving, that is aligned with a livable future.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Maybe one last question. What's one thing you're looking forward to, or one hunch you have about what might be on the horizon here with the work coming out of this conversation?
Well, I think you and I are trying to prepare for our kind of commissioning with this cohort. And there are a couple of things for sure that are on the horizon. One is really practicing encounter together.
Hmm.
So we believe that a relational approach to finance does mean going to the margins, as Pope Francis has called us to do, practicing encounter with those in communities that are on the frontiers of the solidarity economy. So I know you and I are in the process of creating an immersion with the industrial commons, planning for an immersion with a worker-owned co-op. The other thing is, of course, thinking about the ways that we as a community of practice can practice this capital reciprocity, this that we show up differently. We show up differently in the what of our diligence and in the how of our diligence. So creating a shared space for that. And then we're aligning with the Laudato Si Action platform, which is this kind of 7-year journey that the Vatican has offered to Catholics around the world to really embody Laudato Si, Pope Francis's call for an integral ecology. And so I think this community of practice will also be embarking on that journey together.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And if you're excited by what you just heard here, we will be offering more workshops, one in the spring, one in the fall, and our Livable Future Investing kind of workshop next year as well. So we encourage you, if you're especially an investor, an asset holder, somebody wanting to wrestle deeply with these questions of faith and the economy and your own role and how to take steps with others that are just like you, wrestle with these questions, we hope you'll join us.